I'm Sean.
I'm Constance.
And welcome back to another episode of Dragon and Kraken Books.
We've got another what to read, what not to read for you today.
So let's go ahead and get started with this action-packed adventure of book chat.
Book talk.
Book talk. My first what not to read is The Fellowship of Puzzle Makers by Samuel Burr. I picked this up because I thought, I'm a puzzler. I like doing crosswords. I like solving mazes and cryptograms. Although I knew kind of going in that it wasn't really meant for an audience like myself. But I read it anyway. Turns out I was right. Did not enjoy this one at all. The characters were forgettable. The main character was just such a milquetoast. The premise is that he sets off on this adventure to find who his real parents are after being raised by a bunch of old puzzle makers in their fellowship house. And on the way, he has such harrowing encounters as walking down the street and approaching the wrong house and talking to an old woman on a bench. And it's about as exciting as it sounds. So I thought maybe the puzzles would save this thing. Well, take a look at this. Solve the maze to reveal the message. Okay. What the fuck?
The book that I do not recommend is going to be My Heart is a Chainsaw by Stephen Graham Jones. I just didn't care for this one. It felt super typical, very tropey. Follows a young teenage girl who kind of considers herself to be a final girl. One of the horror movie tropes. That's all it really did. There are murders in the town. She tries to find out who is committing these murders. And then it ends. And that's all I really have to say about that. It didn't stand out for me, and I wouldn't recommend it.
The book that I do recommend is by Percival Everett. No, not James, although that is a good book, and I'll probably talk about it in a later episode. I'm talking about The Trees. This was my first experience with Percival Everett, and I didn't really know what to think. It was so audacious and outlandish. The premise is, there's a murder. And it turns out that the body of Emmett Till has been placed at the murder scene. The main two characters are African American. Their rapport with one another reminds me of kind of like a funny sort of Joe Friday from Dragnet. But there is such strong stereotypes in this that I was kind of confused as to how I felt about it. But after thinking about it, the stereotypes in this novel are really kind of necessary for it to get its message across. And what a message. I don't want to give anything away, but the book ends with a question that will just wither you. I still don't know if I know the answer to it.
A book that I will recommend that absolutely stands out to me is Tender is the Flesh by Augustina Bazterrica. This one is not going to be for everybody. It's pretty disgusting in parts. It deals with humans for consumption, cannibalism, capitalism. It's pretty brutal. Like I said, it won't be for everybody, but it was absolutely for me. The ending of this book is shocking. It's bleak, but I loved it. I even tried to find more written by this author. There's not a lot written in English yet. I did find a book of her short stories and liked it as well, but that's a big recommendation from me, is Tender as the Flesh, if you can deal with that genre of horror.
And now for the segment where we discuss co-reads, one that we both didn't like very much and one that we both kind of dug. The one that we didn't like very much, either one of us, is The Book Eaters by Sunny Dean. I wasn't going to read this book. This was a total Constance read. She got about 80% of the way through and then looked at me and was like, I can't finish this. I just can't do it. And so me, always being up for a challenge, I scooped it up and went to read the whole thing. It took me 5 days. This book isn't even 300 pages long, and it took me 5 days to get through it. It's just so dull. It's so boring. It's told in like two alternating timelines. One where the main character is a child, and going all the way up to the present, she's a book eater, which is some sort of secret community that's patriarchal. And so much of the book is Devon, the main character, being told by the men in her society what she needs to be doing, and she just kind of follows along. Very few of the choices that move this plot to its conclusion are made by Devon, the main character. But the biggest issue that I had with it is, why is it called the Book Eaters? It made no sense. It served no purpose in the plot. The title could have just been changed to the Boot Eaters, and it would have been the same story. So yeah, it was just confusing. But the writing is actually really good. It's just the story is a disaster.
One that we really loved, though, is Andy Davidson's The Boatman's Daughter. I don't know if Sean loved it as much as I did. I gave it 5 stars right away. I knew that I loved it. It's Southern Gothic vibes. It's set in the swamps. It's got 2 of the cruelest, most realistic, scary villains that I've ever encountered in a book. These characters felt so real to me. And I just absolutely loved it. We went out immediately as soon as Andy Davidson's new book came out. We had to get it. I just love his writing style. It's very accessible, but it's just, I don't know. I vibe with it. I love it. So 5 stars for that one.
And that wraps up another episode of What to Read and What Not to Read.
So give us a follow, comment, tell us what we should review next, or what recommendations you have for us.
And we'll see you again with another book chat.
Book talk.